Retiree from Consejo found dead. We take our first break and return with the news in detail. Cayo Rosario is a 10-acre mangrove key that sits within the Hull-Chan Marine Reserve off the coast of San Pedro and is considered key for conservation by many stakeholders, including tour guides, fly fishers, and environmentalists. However, the key is privately owned, and despite all the warnings of ensuing damage to the reef, if it is developed, a tourism project at Cayo Rosario obtained environmental clearance before 2020. Then, in 2021, the environmental compliance plan was revised, toning down the initial proposal, and now features the construction of 24 over-the-water structures instead of 90. Recent activity in the waters of the key, and in particular the presence of a barge a couple weeks ago, led residents of Ambergris Key to action in opposition of development. Today, Beverly Wade, the new CEO in the Ministry of Blue Economy, provided an update.
Cayo Rosario is a very emotional matter, and it's totally understood. It's something that's close to naturally the residents' hearts. The bottom line is that it was a private island, and there was a development that was being proposed for it. What happened in 2021, I believe, there was a revised ECP that was done, which took into consideration the concerns from the communities, the fly fishers, the density of the project. In other words, as much as possible to ensure that what was being permitted there would not negatively affect the marine reserve. So that ECP, there was that revised ECP. I am very happy to report that yesterday the Department of Environment held a meeting with all the regulatory agencies to chart a way forward in order for the regulatory agencies to be more coordinated and to ensure that they're in a position to carry out their obligations as it relates to that ECP that was signed in 2021 and what was authorized for development, but also in a position for better communication with the community and the stakeholders so that they understand every step of the way where that development is, and they have an understanding that the authorities have a presence to ensure that what is happening out there is exactly what is being permitted. With regard to the individual permits, I cannot speak to that, but I will tell you that I have based on the meeting yesterday, and I believe a joint statement is supposed to be coming out either today or tomorrow from the Department of Environment on the behalf of all those agencies regarding that meeting and the way forward. But what the Ministry of Blue Economy is insisting on is that we remain vigilant with regards to our responsibilities as it relates to the development that is out there, that we're well coordinated, and that we are transparent. A lot of the issues that I believe is happening is because there is a lack of communication with the residents, with stakeholders, and with even the media. And so there is a plan on how we can do that.
There are some who are already calling for the government of Belize to compulsory acquire the key, as they did with Will Bauer Flats in the south. However, Wade was quick to comment that not every property can be acquired.
It's a very difficult position that the government is in. It's actually unrealistic to think that the government would be in a position to acquire every area that you don't want development to happen. It's simply not realistic. That's one. But secondly, from what I have seen, I am convinced that the concerns of the stakeholders, once the development is monitored properly, that it would allay their concerns. It's not about pushing away the sports fishers. It's not about building something there that would be totally not aligned with the designation of the area. And so I will reiterate, I think what we need to do is to communicate better and to be more transparent and to ensure that we are fully on top of our obligations as monitoring agencies.
On Saturday, interim UDP leader Tracy Panton and members of her leadership team made a trip to Cayo North. She was joined by Senator Designates Honorable Patrick Faber and Honorable Sheena Pitts. According to a post by Faber on his Facebook page, they met with election scrutineers and other election day workers to, quote, hear serious concerns about irregularities during the recent election, end quote. He added, quote, Cayo North now has a documented history of registration fraud, especially with fraudulent voter transfers, and this election only deepened those concerns, end quote. Faber listed 6 types of voter fraud they say was registered during the election, including rampant vote buying across the country. He concluded, quote, while we are not challenging the election outcome at this time, we must protest these violations. If left unchecked, they will become the norm in future elections. We call on the Elections and Boundaries Commission and civil society to demand accountability and immediate reform, end quote. We asked Faber if he believes anything can be done about it.
I've said on the record here with you that I'm not one who cries for all of these things, but I think something must be said, and I applaud the people for Cayo North for sounding the alarm before Omar Figueroa and the Cayo North folks, for instance, succeeded in the court to prove fraud when it came to those voters that were transferred illegally. We would have thought, oh, these things just are as a run-of-the-mill spoken about but not real, until we saw where, you know, there was some gain made in terms of proving it in the court. And I think that sent a signal for the nation. Even now, as we look at what happened during the election, there is no doubt in my mind that some of those same irregularities happened in Collett. There was an abundance of people coming to vote along with the PUP operatives who claim all of a sudden, these are people who I've known all my days in Collett, all my 25 years or so in Collett. All of a sudden they can't read, they can't hold a pen, they don't know how to mark an X. These things were very real. I complained to our returning officer on record quite a few times about photographing ballots. That was very real on election day. So again, while personally I am not one to sit down and cry about the results, these things are very real. It may be, as I said in my post about Cayo North, not something that we want to use to try to overturn the election results now. But if we don't pay attention to these things, because they're very real, if we don't pay attention to them and make complaints about them, this system of democracy that we practice in this country that we've enjoyed so very long will crumble if those of us who have something to say and know what's going wrong don't say anything about it. We are going to suffer the consequences.
As to what form the solution takes, Faber says that has to be done, worked out.
What exactly is the answer, we don't know, but certainly better assessment of who is incapacitated on election day clearly seems to be one of them.
Papers can be fake.
But something needs to be done. I mean, it was so open, and it had to be coordinated on the part of the PUP, because it didn't happen in one constituency, it happened countrywide. All of our colleagues, while I highlighted what happened in Cayo North on my Facebook post, if you listen to the colleagues in the UDP, they will all tell you that this was something that was happening countrywide. So it must have been a part of a planned strategy on the part of the PUP. When we talk about proxies again, people who are not even public servants had proxies being delivered to the ballot box on their behalf. There was a complaint about a senior policeman, soon to be promoted, if not already promoted, I'm told, who was on the compound there at a polling station in Cayo North, but a proxy was put in the box on his behalf while he was physically there on the compound. That kind of thing, really, I mean, we need to, while I agree with you, it's going to be difficult to control everything. There are some things that the Election and Boundaries Commission and the public servants who run the elections clearly can control, and a better handle must be placed on.
Reports are that the body of U.S. retiree 69-year-old Vadim Kulikov of Consejo, Corozal has been found in the Corozal Bay near Consejo. Investigators believe he may have drowned. Kulikov was reported missing on Monday after he was last seen around 2 a.m. earlier that day. Police are investigating. The new CEO in the Ministry of the Blue Economy, Beverly Wade, told Krem News XTV today that they will have to put more effort in fundraising as funding for international conservation NGOs has been impacted by the Donald Trump decree of pausing foreign aid. While some projects may continue, others will be completely cut. Wade told us she's not aware of any project within the ministry that has been impacted by the aid freeze.
It did impact some of our donors and potential donors that we are collaborating with, especially the international NGOs and some of the philanthropic donors that we are looking at, and for conservation. And so we're looking at it closely, and it means that we have to be a little bit more diversified in our fundraising strategies.
After the break, bulletproof vests being considered for entire police department. Stay with us. Following the shooting of Corporal Manuel Chubb, who was injured on Sunday night while on duty, the Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, said on Monday that the department needs to consider acquiring bulletproof vests for each officer. Williams said the vests are costly and that the department had tried to procure a few recently, but he said an officer's life is worth more. Corporal Chubb was fortunate to have survived his brush with death, but others may not be as lucky.
Yeah, we do understand that bulletproof vest is a necessity, and we have tried our best to obtain some recently. We are hoping that we'll be able to get some more, and it has to be done incrementally. The cost of bulletproof vests is expensive, but at the same time, I must say it is far less than if an officer were to be killed in the line of duty because of not having one. We would pay more to bury that officer and to give to his family. So it is more effective for us to be able to get these vests, and so it is something that we'll have to discuss and see what we can do to be able to make sure that every police officer has one. So it's a discussion that we must have.
Today in court in Belmopan, Dimas Joel Mendez was found guilty of double murder for an incident in May of 2021 that caused the death of his ex-partner, 36-year-old Kendra Middleton, and her 3-year-old son, Aiden Perez. According to reports on the night in question, Mendez was seen at Middleton's residence in St. Matthews, Cayo, demanding to be let in. Moments later, a fire broke out. Both mother and child perished. Mendez later turned himself into police. After a long court case, Mendez was charged with a double murder despite his attorney, Earl Hamilton, seeking a manslaughter charge. Justice Natalie Dixon, who oversaw the case, ruled that there was intention in Mendez's actions. Following the verdict, Middleton's mother, Barbara Fisher, spoke of the ordeal and how she felt about the ruling. She also said that Mendez apologized in court for the hurt he caused, for which she said she has forgiven him.
And be honest with you, there's times when I cry, because that was my only daughter, we were so close, and life without her right now, only because I have Jesus in my life, but life without Kendra it's a hole in my heart. It's a hole in my heart. Mm-hmm.
And talk about just coming to court, being adjourned, coming to court adjourned. I mean, where did the family find the strength to see this through to this point?
I'll be honest with you, if I never know Jesus Christ, have him in my life, in my heart, I couldn't have done it. I could have never ever done it, and I have faithful brothers and sisters who are praying for us, the family. Because today makes the 20th day we come before we get a hearing for the 20th today, 20 times, and it's just because of the grace of God I can go through.
And do you believe that hearing that double murder conviction make those days waiting worth it?
Yes, definitely so. I feel a more sense of peace, I had the peace of God, but I feel a more sense of peace because I know he will honestly get what he deserves, even though I still have a little sympathy and pity, and when I look at him just now in the court, I feel sorry for him.
Has he offered the family any sort of sorries, apologies, anything like that?
Just in the court, he said, I want to say I'm sorry for the hurt I caused the family. That's all.
And then
I honestly forgive him.
Reefs around the world are under severe stress. The guides who take tours to Hull Chan Marine Reserve and other areas will share stories of the degradation that has occurred over time. Our reef in parts is no longer as colorful as it used to be. But there are other areas like the Corona Reef in the Sapodilla Keys Marine Reserve where the coral population is vibrant and thriving. Blue Economy CEO Beverly Wade told us today that this year they should complete the identification of reef areas they want to totally protect.
The bottom line is that our reefs are in peril. we have come under some of the most extreme temperatures, and we have also now been terribly impacted by the stony coral tissue loss diseases, aside from the other normal diseases that impact reef. And so what we have seen is that there are some resilient areas, and that is one of them. But our reefs on a whole, we have bright spots. There are some areas that we are seeing rebounding. We're hoping it's so. But I think what's more importantly is that we're not just sitting back and just saying, oh, the reef is dying and we're not doing anything. The government of Belize committed to the total protection of 20% of Belize's reef. And that is an important thing for us. And we're actually looking at identifying what that 20% is by the end of this year, and to look at how we could designate those areas. They're important for us because we have to ensure that we've identified those areas around our reef that are important for genetics, for resiliency, because we have to now have a strategy, which we are also developing a restoration strategy and policy, to see how do we now respond. It's not something that we can respond to easily, but the bottom line is that we are looking at how do we create that pathway for response. So we are looking at that 20% of our reef to be totally protected, and we're hoping that when we close on Resilient Bold Belize, which is the project for finance permanence that the Prime Minister mentioned in his speech earlier, that will allow us now to bring in the kind of management that those 20% may need. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we have excellent work that's being done by our partners on the ground and by the National Coral Reef Monitoring Network, which is currently chaired by the Fisheries Department. But that network is a group of dedicated experts, both government and non-governmental and even community experts that are working on our reef, that are monitoring the extent of bleaching and these events and helping us to put the strategy together for restoration.
Yaya Marin Coleman today entered her second day of demonstration for a natural hair law that will apply to schools and the workplace across Belize. She shared an important update since the last time she held her protest.
Met with Human Rights Commissioner Belize President and Vice President, and they agree for being one ally with UEF in this campaign, and that's big for have Human Rights Commissioner Belize. They are totally overstand what the police position and agree that it's something that needs to be addressed as a violation in Belize. And they ask if UEF know with certainty why the schools have the position they have. And I tell them, the only thing I hear in interviews is that is school rule, and when you come for join the school, on sign one paper where say, or agree to the school rule. That's the only reason that they give, even though. And our shared upon WB, in looking at the police officer's case, in one instance, it's them having locks. It's because of their African identity. And then and that 2021, 2022, and looking at the student from Stafford Ecumenical College in 2017, and I mean, the same judgment, the consent order and the ruling. It was because as a Rastafari, based on religious grounds. And so I encourage Belizeans, the more knowledge you have, the more you could defend yourself, and I encourage students and parents, guardians, if they tell any other children, or even in the private sector for employment, anything but honor the wear on a natural hair, protected hairstyle, locks, cornrow, bantu knots, calmly, not sounding confrontational or disrespectful, so can you please put where they ask me in a writing? That's all. Put it in a writing. Once you get it in a writing, my phone number is 671-8050. You could, hey brother, you could WhatsApp it to me. We are sending it to we attorney. We attorney one then send one letter to the school board or whoever your employer is, and then we are take it from them. Usually, because we've done it once before in the Toledo district, and when that happened, then did allow the child to wear locks, but the child felt at the time that they then have one spotlight panel like, oh, so that you want to challenge we. You better make sure you do everything what this rule book said, because if you slip, which is why people don't want to engage.
Since her last protest, Marin Coleman says she followed up with separate new reports of hair discrimination from a primary school and a high school. She visited officials of both schools, and according to her report, one principal stated that based on their rule book, a child can start at the school with locks, but if they want to wear locks while already attending the school, they will require approval. Marin Coleman considers that school policy to be discriminatory. The other schools stated that they have to follow the school rules, and it will be the school board that addresses any lawyer letter they receive on the matter of a student's hair. As to engaging with the new Minister of Education, Oscar Requena, Marin Coleman says she will give him some time first.
Just get the position. We are getting 3 months and lower. And then he gave a personal letter as the Minister of Education asking for us to sit down with our team. And because we have focused the African descendants, which lies as black people, it's not so much that we look out for the interests of other ethnicities, because majority of the reported hair discrimination about black people or black students, WDs. But definitely taking into consideration when we're going, if they agree for meet with we, have a conversation about hair discrimination, systemic hair discrimination in schools and places of employment in Belize. And then one of our European allies, Global Legal Action Network, we asked them, because we couldn't find a Puerto Rican law that was passed in 2024 as it relates to hair discrimination in employment and in classrooms. And so we have the double importance because we intend, again with some of our allies, to create one draft natural law. We're not just going to get that to no state. We did the work and sign up for we interest, so that's the latest update. And then on the 15th, I will do my walk, which I think the Holy Thursday. I walk from Ladyville to here with an African hairstyle, inspired hairstyle by Malika Wagner.
In political news on Monday, Moses Shine Barrow stated that there are people within the camp of Tracy Panton's United Democratic Party who are asking for the party's constitution to be amended to allow anyone to run for leader. He also said people want to vie for leadership against Panton in the next convention whenever it is held.
Until you know, within her own alliance grouping, there are people that are passing a resolution forward to amend the Constitution so that anyone can offer themselves to be leader. So the support that she may think that she has is not necessarily there. I will send it to you. I will share it with you off the record as far as who sent it to me. I cannot reveal who sent it to me, but there are petitions circulating right now where in the alliance cabal, where there are people saying, well, we're not necessarily happy with just having Tracy as our only option. So there are many things to be sorted out. It's not just so simple as, oh, well, she won her seat, so all hail the Queen. That is the same dictatorship that they criticized and they complained about. And so these things need to be sorted out.
Panton's response was that Barrow continues to perpetuate the chaos in the party.
What will happen moving forward is certainly a comprehensive review of the Constitution of the United Democratic Party. There will be a full process, could go as long as 6 months, where the views of our delegates and officials of this party will be assessed so that we don't have the ambiguity as we have seen in this particular case when a chairman and a vice chairman exercises gross, in my opinion, gross dereliction of their duties and functions to defend and uphold the Constitution of the party, that there is a way forward in how we, the delegates, deal with it, and how we, the other party officials, deal with it. It is unfortunate that they allow themselves to be used, for lack of a better term, in that manner, and the party must ensure that this sort of a situation is never allowed to happen again.
Mr. Barrow is also making the claim that there are people within even your party faction, I know you push back on that, that's willing to challenge you. Is it the understanding that, or can you even decide at this stage that the leadership won't be contested, that you will be endorsed whenever there's a national convention?
Sure.
That is a completely untrue statement, completely untrue. And he must be held accountable for continuing to cause chaos and spread lies in this party. We had a meeting on March 18th at the Biltmore Plaza. We came together, all of us, and we signed a declaration and we signed a commitment to move this party forward under my leadership, and that is exactly how it will go.
After the break, funeral home proprietor found guilty of raping minor. Stay tuned.
20 years ago, we built a company that is about
A funeral parlor on Freetown Road in Belize City, 44-year-old Patrick Robinson was on Monday convicted of 3 charges of having unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor. Robinson is charged with engaging in sexual activity with the young girl from the time she was 11 in 2019 until August 2022, when she was 14. He has been remanded to the Belize Central Prison until his sentencing, which is scheduled for a later date. Robinson was initially charged with 5 counts, but due to what is being called possible discrepancies in the testimony of the minor, he was found guilty of only 3 of the 5 counts of unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor. After Monday's trial in the United Democratic Party case, we caught up with Patrick Faber, who spoke for the first time since his March 12 defeat in Cullet about his future plans. On his Facebook page, he shared that the Cullet Education and Resource Center will be reopened after Easter. He told the media he expects to complete his doctoral studies in the next few months.
Well, I conceded. You know, I am not the kind that will cry foul. I believe that there are many things that happened, and I think that it was very blatant in most regards what happened. So, but a loss is a loss. I understood that very well from the night of the election, and I believe that I still have a place with the people of Cullet. I am not quick to abandon them. They have made it very clear to me that they still want me to be there as their representative, and so I'm considering that very strongly. I'm not quick to make a decision there, but I don't think that I'll be going anywhere in that regard. But I also believe that I have a very huge role to play in terms of helping to put the pieces back together, if you will, of the party, and so that is my primary role in these early days after the election.
How do you assess the criticism that you spent a lot of time away from your constituency, and is it your intent to change that if you find that to be a fact over the next 4 years?
I think you've asked me this already on your morning show, Paul, and you know well that it was not an intentional abandonment. In fact, I did not live abroad. I live here in Belize. I made very clear to persons, even through the National Assembly, every chance that I got, that I was and still am trying to complete my studies. I intend to finish with my doctoral degree in public administration in a few months' time. And so that does not mean, well, that means that I don't have to any longer do the kind of traveling that I used to do. But, you know, it's, I take some responsibility, of course, for the loss. Like I said, I'm not one who will cry foul. I've never been in the situation where I would have to explain a loss before, but I'm not one who will sit down and cry foul and claim that, you know, it's not a loss. A loss is a loss. I had a fair run and with the people of Cullet for 22 years. I've been their representative. I've been their leader as the UDP person in the constituency for much longer, maybe now 27 years. And so for me, it is an opportunity again for me to reassess my position and to see where we're going. But that certainly does not mean an abandonment of my people.
Faber says he embraces his new role as UDP senator, which will keep him in parliament.
Well, considering that we're still fighting the enemy, the PUP, it's very much the same. It's a different role after 22 years in the lower house. I was joking with a fellow senator, Senator Courtney, I'll tell you, and I told him that, well, you know, this you've always maintained, you people who have been senators, you've always maintained that the Senate is the better behaved, well behaved of the two houses. So I guess we'll have to see. But one thing for sure that I'm going to struggle with, and those of you in the media who know, especially at budget time, I'm known to go on for a bit because, of course, we have a whole lot to talk about. One of the things that I'm sure is going to be a handicap is the time limit, which is afforded to members of the Senate. I think it's only 45 minutes, while in the House you are inhibited providing you're not repeating yourself and you know, saying the same thing over and over.
You have to use those summer skills.
Yes, definitely.
How much did you personally bid for this role? Did you see it as important for the future of your political
Well,
career?
to be honest with you, I did not anticipate that at all. In fact, when I was asked by our party leader, I gave it consideration. One, because it is a role that we've often said should not be a kind of reward for candidates who have failed. And I do put myself in that category because I did not bring home the seat. But I also looked at the fact that the party needs good, strong debaters at this time. In the Senate and in the House, we need good voices. And so when I was approached with it from that angle, asking me to support not only my Senate colleagues, but also my new colleagues who are House members, I could not turn my back on the party. And so I agreed that I would do it for the strength of the party.
In other news, the multinational Remain project is looking to fund language programs to keep the Garifuna language alive. Another project is to assist track and field athletes from the south with the building of a synthetic running track near Dangriga. Jeremy Caetano is the Belize director from the Remain project, and she spoke more on the project and their fundraising efforts.
The Remain Project was formed. It's an organization that was formed to see the Garifuna language live, and that's where the collaboration and the partnerships came into effect. The Garifuna language is almost lost in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As you know, Garifuna people were deported were exiled, from Yormay, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and our language is no longer there. And we will not allow the same thing to happen in Belize. And so that's where our organization started. And so we are pushing that heavily. We're also very much interested in the growth and development of our youth. Particularly the youth in the south who might not have as many opportunities as others, and so we are pushing for them to be able to go to international tournaments like the pen relays, and also have a proper facility on which to practice. We have several things that we're working on. One, we're working on building a synthetic running track in southern Belize. We are running Garifuna language programs, and we give a small stipend to the people who teach. And also we are supporting the St. Gregory Ecumenical College students on their way to the Philadelphia pen relays.
Okay, how can other people donate towards these projects? What's the timeline we're looking at?
All right, the timeline is now. You can contribute by contacting any of us director. Like I said, I'm the Belize director. My number is 614-1247. You can contact Dr. Gwen Nunes Gonzalez. She's our operations director.
James Cordes is the project's international director from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Cordes spoke on how he feels seeing the culture and language alive in Belize.
Thrilling, goosebumps. The colonizers thought they killed us, but we're living here still. It's just vibrancy. So no matter how you see downtroddenness or negativeness within, the idea that we lived, because in 1797 when the exile took place, that was supposed to be the end of the Garinago. But it wasn't, because some of us was back there, and most that traveled survived. So it's really a wonderful thing to see it happening.
And then how do you feel seeing that, apart from how big it's grown, there's this movement to make it even bigger for the children to embrace the culture?
Well, it's really what's supposed to happen, because a nation without a language is not a nation. And our children must know who they are in order for them to thrive. Most of the different languages in the Caribbean was given to us by colonizers. The Garifuna language is still the only language that is spoken in the Caribbean, and that was actually born in the Caribbean. It was actually born in St. Vincent. And so it's wonderful to see it living and for us to walk and have an opportunity to walk for its longevity.
Zachary, Seth, and Mark of the Malise's Way Brothers, a soul pop musical group from Canada, are in the country for their third visit to help with the fundraising efforts of the Euromane project. They encourage the youth to embrace their culture.
Previous years, when we were here with the Euromane project, we spoke about the importance of hard work, practicing, and the importance of education. And one of the reasons why we're here is really because we want to not only share the importance of what hard work and can do for you, because as brothers we came a long way by supporting each other, working together, and a lot of hard work. But the reason why we were actually here in Belize now is the most important reason is networking and using our connections to really support and grow ourselves as a community, We learned about the Garifuna culture and we embraced it because we realized that the importance in learning your language and in knowing your history is one of the greatest strengths that you could ever have. So we'd say be proud of who you are and share your gifts with the rest of the world.
On Monday, a single mother of three, Janae Stewart, received the keys to a new two-bedroom wooden home in Collet. The house was built through a collaboration with Hand in Hand Ministries, SMART, and various volunteers. It is the 535th home built by Hand in Hand Ministries and the 12th so far this year. Shannon Stewart spoke of the screening process and said the house was built in 4 days.
In order to be qualified for this bill, you had to demonstrate a significant need in housing improvement, and once we were able to identify those potential clients, we started our process of collecting all our necessary data, whereby we did interviews, we assessed applications, and the most important, we conducted house visits. Now, these house visits allowed us to get a better understanding of the client's living condition, after which we then started our selection process, whereby we sat down as a team and we discussed each and every case thoroughly so that we could ensure that the family that received this home was the family most in need. This is our 535 house for Hand in Hand Ministries and our 12 house, and the house took about approximately 4 days.
This is the third home SMART has assisted in building. Karina Canto, the company's public relations and communications officer, spoke about the company's goal of giving back to the community. She also said that employees volunteered over the weekend.
Outside of being a mobile service provider, we look at things that we can do to improve not only our services but also the community, because then that just helps them in the long run to feel empowered and really just on a whole contribute to Belize's economy, because then once they feel that they are worth it, they provide positively to the community.
It's not just a company, I understand some of the employees helped out too?
Yes, we have a very active team over at SMART. We are always hands on deck. We were out here building for 3 days from the Friday. We were out here Saturday and the Sunday, and literally just hands on, everything from loading the truck to like nailing the walls, painting. So it really was a fun, like Beto said, it's a fun experience, because then now if something goes wrong, I know to hammer something, and it really just, like I said, it's empowering, and not only for the people we're giving the home to, but it also empowers us to give back.
Janae Stewart spoke of how grateful she is for her new home and how it will benefit her and her 3 children. She said she was also involved in the construction of her new home.
I always want to have my own home, but something when I have to parent for something my kids could call their own home too. So it means a whole lot to me.
Can you be able to speak on where you used to live and how this compares to that?
I used to live in an apartment in a Martins area, and at one point things me good, and next thing things start go downhill. So I used to sit down and I think And I talked with my man, she said, you know, why not just apply for a house and hand in hand? So at first I'm ashamed because I got a lot of pride, but one day I just get up and I make an appointment and I go and do the interview, and next thing I know, they call me for a house visit, and like 2 weeks or something like that, they call me and tell me I come to the office to sign my contract.
And then I understand you were busy this weekend too. You also helped with some of the construction.
Yes, I did. I actually had a lot of fun. Like, paint, put the doors together, the sidings, the flooring, the veranda. I still have some paint for me right now. I just finished do everything last night with the inside.
Any words you have for Hand in Hand and Smart?
Well, I can't express how grateful I am for both Hands in Hands and Smart. I mean, this means a whole lot to me, so I'm very, very grateful for it.
And Belize City Mayor Bernard Wagner and Councillor Sherwin Garcia are in London, United Kingdom, for the Wilton Park Dialogue on Advancing Sustainable Urbanization. Top urban leaders, specialists, and decision makers from throughout the Commonwealth, including Lucy Slack, Secretary General of the Commonwealth Local Government Forum, are gathered in this discussion to address the urgent issues of unplanned urbanization and climate change. The conversation, which is being hosted by Wilton Park, the Commonwealth Sustainable Cities Initiative, and the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, is focused on forming a transformative coalition for sustainable urban development, particularly in new and rapidly growing urban areas. In a statement, the Belize City Council notes, quote, "Our team is championing Belize Cities and CLGF's voices, ensuring that our local perspectives and needs are part of the global conversation on climate change resilience, sustainable infrastructure, innovation in urban planning, strategic collaboration with Commonwealth partners. This engagement directly aligns with Belize City Council's mission to build a greener, smarter, more inclusive city and opens doors to best practices that we can bring home to benefit our communities," end quote. And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. A repeat can be viewed on the station later tonight at 9 and again tomorrow at midday. Join us again tomorrow for another news broadcast. I am Drea Espinosa. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.